How many restaurants do you currently have at the moment?
12. There was a period of my life, age of 16 to 25, 9-10 years, where it was just all work, no play, just focus and just grinding. I had to be responsible at a very young age. When I had the 3 venues, George's, Going, Massimo and Rico, 8 months, we all got hit with COVID. I thought, the world was over, all my eggs in one basket. I think it was like 6 months or 7 months after the opening of Oppa, I got hit with the floods. Oppa and Massimo, the water goes pretty much very close to the ceiling. A week after that, I got hit with a demo clause. Basically, in my mind, I had 0 restaurants in a really, really bad place, like super bad. They were trying to get my lease behind my back. How do I come back 10 times stronger?
Trust people around you.
Started creating a team around me. But look, at the start, I had to wear 1,000 hats. I always believe if you do the right thing, be a good human being, help people along the journey. Don't be greedy, help people. Things will always work out. In hard times, things do come quite cheap.
For those who take the opportunity. Welcome everyone to the first episode of Johnny's podcast. The name of the podcast is actually a work in progress, so hopefully I'll come back with something brilliant and be able to share with you all. The purpose of this podcast is to be able to share some of the great success stories of my closest friends, our clients at Solomon's, as well as people that have gone through the journey of from being the bottom to the top, or sometimes the family intricacies. So this is the first episode. So without further ado, I do have a very special guest. He's been an amazing friend to me personally, as well as a great supporter of the business and a trusted contact, and someone that I admire deeply for his tenacity, for the work, that ethics that he put in, and he truly understands and appreciates. Probably the most humble person, I think, that I can say that I know in my circle of trust. So I have a special guest, Michael Tassis, who currently is the owner and the managing director of Tassis Group, the most amazing food venture in Brisbane. We just had a lovely lunch at Vakau.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.
I appreciate you having me on your first podcast. And I really do appreciate being here with you. And thank you for the kind words as well.
No, not a problem. No, I think it helps certainly to have a good conversation with you before we came to this. And but we almost talk, I think, almost every weekly.
Yeah, a few times a week.
But, I think we share a very good sort of mutual values of things, and
100%.
And the stories that we've shared along the journey and along our sort of path of growth in our businesses, it also inspired me quite a lot along the journey. And I wanted people whose, broader circle than our closer circle to be able to hear that, I think, directly from you. And we were just joking about, you just mentioned previously, and perhaps a good segue to get in is, we talked about when we were young and having a great time in our younger days, but, you were just saying before that, you didn't really get to enjoy much of that time early on because you're working so hard.
Yeah, I missed out a lot. There was a period of my life when we caught up, I was mentioning that, there was a gap where from probably like age of 16 to 25, 9-10 years, where it was just all work, no play, just focus and just grinding. So
walk me through that process, because I think there is always a perception that people may see success of where you are today with, how many restaurants do you currently have at the moment?
12 under the Tassis Group umbrella.
Tassis Group, and that's all in Brisbane.
And it's still growing.
Yeah, still growing. Hopefully a few more on the way.
Yes.
Very exciting. But they see that successful side.
Yes.
But they don't understand sort of where you've come from.
Sure.
So perhaps if you can maybe start sharing some stories about your early days. Mm-hmm. How old were you when you first started working? Where were you?
Moved from Sydney to the Gold Coast for my father's first opportunity for a restaurant, a seafood restaurant. It was called Paragon Seafood in 1988. So we moved from Sydney to Gold Coast, and that's basically where the journey started. But I was 8 years old. I had to coming from a kind of Greek background family, after school, you're there weekends. I was buttering, garlic bread and doing odd jobs. But probably where it really kick-started was when I was 12. My father was very successful in his first restaurant, and he went on and opened the iconic George's Paragon at Century Cove.
Oh, favorite restaurant.
Yes, famous for, a lot of people do like it.
Yes, still.
So age of 12, after school, hours, weekends, just focusing, helping the family business to start off with. And I found my passion. I was a kitchen hand to start with, so I was doing kitchen hand work, pots and pans, washing dishes, the fun stuff. And I did really enjoy the atmosphere of being in the kitchen. And then I kind of grew into, there was a section on the weekends because it was so busy, and my father put on this lobster special called the whole lobster mornay special.
Oh, yes.
And they couldn't keep up with the numbers, so they made a special section especially on the weekends, for lobster mornay. So I was the lobster mornay chef.
Yeah, right.
So they created that position just for me. I actually found so much love and passion in cooking, and that kind of was my first step into my journey as a cook.
Yep.
And probably the hardest thing was, to be honest with you, was going to school, doing so many hours from school, then going to work afterwards. So there was not much study in between, but mostly just working. So I remember the teacher came up to me once because I was falling asleep in class, and she goes, "Michael, is everything okay at home?" I'm like, "Yeah." So
I think they did send child protective service.
So no, but look, I really enjoyed, and then fast track to say, I was, when I was 13, 14, I was learning different sections in the kitchen, and I really, really loved, learning is number one. But having, good people in the kitchen, working together as a team environment, I really enjoyed that. It kind of inspired me. So when I was 15, I kind of, family needed, help as well in the business. So I wasn't, I didn't really like school too much either. So I finished my grade 10 and then went in straight into apprenticeship.
Right.
So I did my apprenticeship as a chef. Learn all aspects of the kitchen, and luckily my father as well, he like at the start I didn't want to do it. He actually said, "Michael, I want you to learn the front of house."
Oh, right.
And I said, "Dad, I just love the kitchen. I just want to stay in the kitchen. I just love it so much." He goes, "No, I want you to start learning the front of house." So he kind of pushed me, and he saw something in me. So he pushed me forward to learn the craft of, service and the real meaning of hospitality. And, started enjoying, dealing with people, front of house staff. So then I started learning over the years all aspects of hospitality, from bar to, to cashiering, to doing a section waitering, and then managing people. So, and the good, it was funny because, going back into the kitchen, I was in charge actually of the purchasing as well. And I'll tell you a funny story where when I was doing the purchasing, like all the so I'd get in early in the morning, like 6 o'clock in the morning. It was a bit old school, get on the phone, start calling the seafood mongers and the seafood suppliers and start negotiating prices. So the prices of fresh fish wasn't set. So you always be ringing to negotiate price. And I remember this one supplier said, he goes, "Oh, Michael, how old are you?" And I said, 21. So you don't sound 21.
Yeah.
I was 16 at the time.
Right.
So it
sounded a lot more mature than.
Yeah. So look, I appreciate that kind of upbringing and having that opportunity to learn at a very young age. And I had to be responsible at a very young age. And that kind of, I was grateful for my father to give me that opportunity. But then we started opening more restaurants and cafes for the Tassis, for my dad, for the family. And so my older brother Damien and I were basically, running, a lot of the venues, and we're opening a few venues as well over the years. And that's basically kind of how it all started at a young age.
Wow.
Yes.
That's quite inspiring, actually, because as also being the migrant myself, I've also gone through a similar thing where, I think I told you my first job was age of 15, being a Woolworths checkout chick. I was pretty good at that job, actually, in Surfers Paradise, and we called it a tough love, but I think it's really what set the foundation for us early on. I think that we sometimes take that for granted.
Yes.
For a lot of people might not see that side, obviously.
Yeah, like at the time you kind of, your mind's somewhere different, but later on in life you definitely do appreciate you kind of that laying a foundation of hard work and, and understanding. But yeah, looking back now, it was basically my university degree, into hospitality.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so
that's probably better than university degrees, I'll say.
Yeah, it's true.
I've seen many people who graduate hospitality, including my wife, actually. Hotel management, I should say. But no, that's amazing. And I think, I was your loyal customer at your first venue in Eagle Street in Brisbane CBD, and we met. We met early on. I think this is going back almost 12 years or more. Now, from learning from that and expansion of, family business and supporting your father, you obviously sort of branch out of that, wouldn't sort of comfort zone, but I guess branch out of that to start something there. Walk me through that if you don't mind. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So basically when my wife and I got married, was in 2009. Working for the family, it's it has its challenges, and to go further in life as well, because you want to create your own family, you have to kind of step outside this circle sometimes. And I was lucky enough. I wanted to open because my wife Lila, she's a Brisbane girl, and we wanted to open a venue in Brisbane, and we're deciding. What concept, what name, but we thought to bring the brand George's up to Brisbane. We thought that was a great idea, and I was looking. It took me probably a year and a half to find the location. I went to multiple operators, landlords, and it was quite challenging to find the right location. And then, luckily enough, at the time it was Stocklands. He owned Eagle Street Pier, and the opportunity was there, and I took it with two hands straight away. I knew. I started doing my research. There was only two venues at the time what were doing extremely well, and they were pretty busy all the time. So I thought this is a no-brainer. So I opened. So that was, I think, El Centro and Cha was there already.
Yep.
And I knew, and they were busy lunch and dinner, so I thought, no brainer. So I moved forward, went aggressive, and signed the lease. And great learnings from that first lease, because that was foundation of understanding throughout my, when I did open more restaurants, to understand, make sure you get your lease perfectly done. And if you don't have understanding about leases, then really speak to like a great lawyer who knows about leases. But anyways, a perfect spot. The funny thing is, actually, I'll tell you, no one really knows this. So it was the spot I took was above, I think it was Aria. Yeah, so above Aria, and then at the time, it was the old rugby club. And it had good bones, but the landlords thought I would, do a full renovation, spend millions. I said, I'll make sure it's all looking good. But I only had a little bit of money, so I had to take a bank loan. And basically I kept pretty much all the bones in the restaurant and pretty much just new carpet, paint job, a few little things. And when the landlords first saw the restaurant and the renovations, they weren't too impressed with me. But the thing is, after, the first few years and the amount of people coming through from, through the venue, they were like really impressed with the numbers and the turnover that we were doing. I'd say that was probably the busiest restaurant at that time. Our peak was in 2015, 2016, where we were doing probably about 5,000 covers a week.
Wow.
On the staff level, we had around about 100 staff.
In that venue.
In that venue. Wow. So, it was queues and it was always full. It was
lining up all the time, trying to get a table.
Whole soul.
Whole soul. That's my favorite dish. Yeah.
But yeah, look, it was great learnings. And, for my first business, because I knew everything about the back of house, the front of house, but I didn't know, I didn't get trained in the financial
business side.
And, one thing, starting a business and you don't know about the financial side is, I said to Lila, we just make sure that,
Lila's your wife.
Lila's my wife, yes. So until we understand the financial side, we're just going to, have the bare minimum for wage and just expenses. So I think it was like $400 or something we were talking, and we moved to the city, so we were paying rent in one of the high rises because we had to work, long hours, 7 days from, first one in, last one out. So we'd get there 8 in the morning and then we'll leave 1 or 2 in the morning. So we needed somewhere to be close. So look, we just wanted to, make sure the first few years that we understood the financial side, and that was great learnings for us as well. So so then from that moment, we focused on that business and did a few tweaks on it along the journey, and 2018, 19, I opened my second venue.
Okay. Now before we get into the second venue,
yeah, sure.
Obviously your George's, that's that was the place. Like I said, given that I was a developing professional early days.
Yes.
What would you say, that differentiated George's with so much competition around you, from a high-end restaurants to, really, Cha 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 was a signature steakhouse, and especially by the river, it's a beautiful location.
Yeah.
Why do you think that why do you think people lined up for the third?
Look, I think that especially that time when we kind of hit the market, it was definitely a point of difference. A friend of mine actually said to me, "Oh, Michael, I will never forget." He said, "Michael, it was pretty bad decision going to that precinct, and you've got all high-end restaurants." I said, no, because what we're doing is we're going in there with good food, excellent service. We're still delivering good food, and we're still delivering, the service or better, but just at a really good price point. And I think if and I saw a few people actually as well, because it was half price, because we did a famous half price lunch back then. Yes. So half price lunch, and then in the evening, if you book and seated between 5:30 and 6:30, you get the half price menu. It's funny, sometimes they'll bring clients and they say, "Hey, Michael, can you just," because I'm shouting the clients, just bring out the dinner menu.
That was me.
But look, I think people appreciate, if they're gonna, it doesn't matter about the price point, or if you're gonna give good value. And look, we had certain menu items on there which lifted the price up as well. But 70% on that time frame was 50% off entrees and mains. So it was good value. But then we had live seafood, which your ticket price goes up from over 200. So but if you kind of make sure that whatever the guest is spending from $50 to $100, and you're giving great value and you're nailing it with good food and service, they're going to love you and keep coming back. And we had clients, guests, I'd see them 3-4 times a week in that venue, or maybe more. Because sometimes it was actually, you couldn't buy that product really.
No.
And cook it at home for the price what you're getting inside the restaurant.
You're right.
Cooked and served.
Whole soul, my favorite.
And and having that view as well.
Yes.
The view was magic.
It's great. And I literally saw from the early days of your restaurant when it had the hideous blue carpets.
Blue carpet, yeah. So I had to do things a bit,
And then I saw, the chairs have changed. Oh, the tables changed. Yeah. So obviously you've reinvested.
So no, I reinvested straight away because I knew it. This was the budget I only had at the start.
Yeah.
And I knew I had to keep up with demand and and the surrounding restaurants which they had more money than me at the time. So I had to reinvest pretty quick. Yeah. So every time I made a little bit, I put back in, I'll change things and reinvest to get to a stage where it was it wasn't, they were coming for the the good food, the good service, but then they were coming for the atmosphere as well.
Good. Talking about reinvesting, obviously, as you have reinvested everything you've earned back into the business, the second part of the opportunity came, and that's expansion, right, for you. So before you expand and you commit into bigger venture, I know this for myself because I've grown my business to where it is now, committing to that larger lease, like you're signing your name against it. Yes. And then that you could be personally liable for this if it doesn't make it. Yes. Like obviously you've opened a couple more restaurants near the area. Walk me through that thought process that you've had and that additional bit of courage that backed you up to make those executions to expand.
Look, at the time I had a lot of years of experience behind me. Number one, I learned from a lot of great people. Yeah. So that really gave me the courage when I was learning. And then when I opened the first venue, it gave me another level of courage to go and open the next venue. So I got approached by a leasing agent down the river there, Riverside, where Massimo is. So then the next venue was Massimo. So the tenant who unfortunately they left. It was called Groove Train, and so I took that spot. It was probably the worst position at that time because it was at the end of the dining precinct, and it was at the end of the last bit of the dining on the river. And I thought, what, if you're going to give great food, great service. And I had, and I had to take that leap, what you're saying, because the fit out, I had to spend the money this time on the fit out. So I had to go to designers. So it was my first stage of really approaching designers, getting 3 builders, negotiating, with the prices, understanding, having that, making that call where, this builder is going to be good for the job. Because actually the first restaurant, I did a lot of things even myself, like with friends. So this time I had to actually just go to a proper builder and do things, properly, for the landlord, the lease and everything. So, so look, I, took the loan and my wife goes, "You sure?" I said, look, I wanted to open an Italian restaurant. So I was very passionate, always loved Italian food. And I thought, I've always, like as a young kid as well, I loved that, making fresh pasta, fresh produce, and just wanted to do. And the name, it took me a while to come up with Massimo.
What does it mean? I actually never asked you that question.
Look, it means like maximum flavor, everything, to the best, basically.
Like bellissimo,
Yeah, I think, yeah. So, look, it's after, the chef's name, like, people's names as well. A famous chef is called Massimo. So I thought, no brainer, and, it rolls off to the tongue well. It's kind of easy to remember as well, the name. And from pretty much, the learnings from opening the shop, going through that build stage, and then opening the doors, it was actually a really nice feeling, compared to say George's. Brand new brand, I put everything into it. It's very passionate about that project, and it took off from day one.
Wow.
And it was I couldn't believe it. Look, we every restaurant, every venue I've opened, I always take learnings from each one. So I get better as I go, because I've learned something from here, I've learned something from there. But I've learned, a lot of the foundation actually came from my learnings from George's, because of the high volume that you need to do. So a lot of restaurants will never do that volume. But it makes you understand how to, run different cost structures, rostering on different times. So the business side of things actually gave me values for my future venues.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I think from then onwards, I know you've sort of gone through and expanded even further from the lessons you've learned, and you've sort of haven't stopped since. Essentially, you've always opened kind of new restaurant almost every year, maybe except the COVID period, but we'll go through that in a second. And then obviously an opportunity where the spot the Aria used to be down below from George's, you've opened up the Rico's, which was the Spanish bar, and tell me about that present a little bit, and then before we sort of go further deeper.
So the landlords, so from Stocklands they went to Dexus. Dexus saw my success from Massimo, and they wanted me to take over the Aria location. For me, it was no brainer because I know the area well. I always had some love, always felt passionate about Spanish food, and I had this concept in my mind, and basically that's how Rico was born. So. We did, went through kind of like a name generation of like what names are going to be. I had like 5 different names, and Rico just felt to me, it was had great energy. And so open Rico's you actually used the same builders as Massimo, got a great relationship from with them. And so I used the same builders and the same designers. And I've been using the same designers actually all the way through now. But the good thing about the Aria spot, the bones were already there. And, we had to spend a bit of money on the venue, of course, to bring it to life. And I think I was talking with the landlords, Dexus, and the reason why I don't think it worked so well, Aria was a fantastic business. And it got to a stage where I think, being in Queensland, they like activation. So I thought when I did open Rico's, I would, open the venue up and activate the bar area. So I created this outside area pretty much out of nothing. The Rico's restaurant dining was, we had a beautiful dining room.
Yes.
And then we had this massive kind of bar area inside and outside, and it was heaving. From day one, it just exploded. It took off like a rocket. And look, Rico's is not there at the moment. We're, hopefully we'll relocate that brand soon. But it was, I think if anyone who went to Rico's, have great stories, and they've got great memories as well from that time.
I agree. It was a fun place where you can go and have little bits of everything, and the paella was fantastic. And I sense a bit of that familiarity of that paella actually at the Mulga Bills actually. So it's
I did. Yes, I did.
It's actually quite a nice one. So it's continuing to sort of expand from there, and I see you every time you also decide to open another restaurant, you go through almost exactly, probably if not more, same stress as you do them. And I see you, it's because I think it's important to you. And people will be wondering, what's behind the driving force of you to just, now, obviously fast forwarding and into where we are now. you've built a successful
Yes.
empire, hospitality empire, and everyone comes up to you and be like, if they ask you what do, you say a restaurant business. You tell me that half the people time like so difficult, you know what I mean? And it's true, right?
Yeah.
It's like one of the most difficult business in the world to be successful in.
You have to have passion for hospitality. If you don't have any passion for hospitality, don't get into the business. It's all about passion. But look, at the start, I had to wear 1,000 hats. And then when the restaurants grew into what it is now, I started slowly taking off one hat at a time. But, it's only the last kind of, I'd say maybe year and a half, 2 years, maybe max, where things have got a little bit easier for me. I started creating a team around me.
Yep.
But it's all about my team. So I've got a staff, like I've got a member of my team where he's actually, when I was a head chef of my family's business, he was my apprentice chef.
Yeah.
So Daniel, he's the head chef at Massimo. He's been with me, I'd say, I've been working along with him maybe 28 years or 27 years, something like that high. But a lot of my key members have been with me 20 years, 15 years, 8 years, so it's those people around me have made the foundations and helped me grow the business. So we kind of grow together.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I do know, and there's something, one thing I really love about you is that, you tend to trust people around you really, and then your trust is very unshakable oftentimes, and that's the thing that.
Well, my wife says to me, I trust too many people too easily. I
don't think so, but I think that's good. I think
I can't help it. Yeah.
You have trusted people and team around you, and obviously. Even for me, when I run business and when I'm always forefront of trying to think about what's next,
yes.
You often tend to forget about yourself.
Yes.
And no doubt you've gone through the same.
100%.
Is there like a methodology that you use along the journey to better yourself? And what was that drive behind putting more effort in bettering yourself? If that makes sense.
At the start, it was quite hard. Like I was wearing like 1,000 hats. So growing the business, it was very challenging where I was in the business 7 days. There was no weekends. There was no coming home early. My personal life as well, had its moments, but luckily I have a strong wife at home. So she understood the kind of vision. But it's hard at times, but it's when you're growing, it's like growing pains. So you have to wait for that right moment where you can kind of execute, another staff member to like allocate another position. It might cost you a bit of money at the start, but hopefully it works out. So making that call by adding a new position in to take off that hat is kind of crucial. But it's the timing has to be right, especially in hospitality. The margins are super tiny, so you have to make sure that when you do grow, make sure that you kind of do everything at the start and then slowly let things go and delegate your work to the right person, and trusting them, and don't be on top of them so much. Let them ride it. Pull them up if they're doing something, wrong, and, learn from each other. But a lot of the guys actually around me and I put into those positions as well, I've learned a lot from. So it's kind of that give and take as well. So, yeah.
That's amazing. I think, me included, I think I can call myself quite a blessed individual because I have in my business people that I can walk in and be proud that I can actually learn something from my own team members. And sometimes I think, and that's actually quite rare in business leaders at times. And this is, I think, what makes, you definitely more special is that, our humbleness comes from, perhaps your faith, perhaps with how you've grown up along the corners. So, every time you did find any difficulties in life and maybe most challenging moments that you had to endure, is that something that really brought you back out to the normal version of self, where as a business leader, you still have to give energy, it's like continuous giving. What was that thing that really pulled you forward?
I think the foundation of, cause I'm an Orthodox background. So I believe in Jesus, and I'm a Jesus, true and true. And, I think there was moments in my life where, actually, to be honest with you, I tested the model, and I got a backslap, and I realized, you know what, this is the path. I have to stick to my faith and go forward. But if you keep pushing, keep going forward, you're always going to go through challenging moments. But I always believe if you do the right thing, be a good human being, help people along the journey. Don't be greedy. Help people. Things will always work out, but always keep pushing forward. You know what I mean? And the biggest key thing as well would be I always try to improve something every day in my business. Something small, because like compounding. Eventually, in 30 days, it's just going to get better. So, but if you leave things and if you're lazy, it's not going to work out that well.
Very good point. I think 1% better than yesterday is something we all try to aim for. And if you do that, wealth management, we call it the wonder of the seventh wonder of the world is compounding interest and compounding returns. So obviously you're a living proof of that.
The compounding on leases are hard to digest.
That's true. That's true.
I still have to try and get out of that one.
That's true. But you've been making great success along the journey. So now, no doubt, at one point in your lifetime, we talked about difficult times and what helps you to sort of steer forward of those times. You would have had to challenge one of the biggest difficulties in your life, whilst you're running this empire and keep committing yourself to those lease commitments.
Yes.
What was it, and how did you sort of endure that part during, what was the most difficult part in this whole journey, if you were to name that one event?
Look, when I had the 3 venues, had George's going, Massimo and Rico. I got I think about 8 months after I got hit with, we all got hit with COVID. And I thought, the world was over. What have I done? I put, all my eggs in one basket. I could see, the look on my wife's face as well. So there was a lot of things going through my mind at that point. But then opportunities come in kind of bad times. So I took, the leap, and the landlords kind of saw what the same landlord, Dexus, saw what I created. They gave me an opportunity to do another restaurant throughout COVID. And, in hard times, things do come quite cheap.
Definitely, yes.
So,
for those who take the opportunity during the hardest time, tend to make it too, by the way.
So, and to be honest with you, I love learning. If I can learn, that's for me is better than money. So I had the opportunity to do a steakhouse. So I created Fat Cow. It was called, the first Fat Cow was Fat Cow Steak and Lobster. And pretty much at the same time of that agreement, my other landlord, where I had Massimo, gave me the opportunity to take over a restaurant, was closing down. And that's when I opened up Oppa. So with Fat Cow, I wanted to, always wanted to, learn, and I thought steakhouses was, I've never done steakhouses before. So there was a lot of research involved, and luckily I had a great team as well behind me. It's always a team as well, which is the foundations. And when I opened Fat Cow, it was very, very successful. Very, very successful. I didn't realize, because it was through that COVID time as well. I thought, it'd be busy, but won't be overly busy. And we were pumped. And we opened that venue, which is the worst thing in hospitality. You never want to open a restaurant around November, December. We opened, I think it was like December, the 26th of December or 27th of December, at the end of December. And anyone who knows Brisbane City that well back in those days, now it's a bit different. After December, January goes dead. Everyone goes on holidays, everyone goes to the coast. or up north to the Sunshine Coast. So the city goes dead. But yeah, look, we were super busy. That was, great learnings from that venue. And pretty much a few 3-4 months after the Fat Cow opening, I straight away opened Oppa. And for me, that was a passion project because
your culture background.
And I wanted to really open the best authentic Greek restaurant in Brisbane. And lucky for us and the team, it was a very successful opening. It was huge. Coming to your point where most challenging.
I was going to say that this is why you're so successful, because you tend to focus on the positive, not the negatives.
No,
but it's coming.
It's coming. It's coming.
So everything was all in the high, yeah?
All in the high. Yes. Everything was going super well, even through COVID. And then two things happened to me. One, I think it was like 6 months or 7 months after the opening of Oppa, I got hit with the floods. 2000, I think it was 2000, can't remember now, 2022, I think it was, or 21, floods. And
all the real fronts.
And business was going well, everything was on a high. And then the floods happen. Oppa and Massimo, the water goes pretty much very close to the ceiling, underwater, devastating. I was like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Here we go. And then a week after that, I got hit with a demo clause. So the 3 restaurants I had at the time at Waterfront,
demolition clause.
Demolition clause. So I had Fat Cow, George's, Enrico, had 6 months to vacate.
For the development project.
For the development, yes, which is a beautiful project. But so I had, basically in my mind, I had 0 restaurants. Massimo, Oppa, is in the sea, in the river. And then I got 6 months to close the other restaurants. So I got 6 months to open. If I wanted to go back in, I got 6 months to open the other 2 venues. So, and I'm thinking to myself, one, I've got all these staff. Like, what am I going to do with all this staff? And, a few things went through my mind, and I was actually in a really, really bad place, like super bad, probably my lowest point, you know what I mean? And again, luckily, I had, my faith, what, kept me strong in those very dark times. And I said to Lila, my wife, I said, I don't know, I think maybe we should just, go to a different direction. Maybe we I was thinking to move to Greece. A lot of things was going through my mind. And I knew I had a lot of staff, I had team members with me for a long time, worked very hard. So I couldn't let them down. Plus, I also remember one of my, someone saying to me that, which I won't mention too much. They after a week of the venues going in the floods, they were trying to get my lease behind my back. So I was like,
that double whammy, yeah.
Double whammy, yeah. So I said to myself, how do I come back 10 times stronger? What can I do to, everyone's thinking to myself, what whispers saying he's finished, he's gone, he's over. And I'm thinking to myself, how do I come back 10 times stronger? So, I got, made sure that we opened before the 3 venues were closed down, we opened Massimo and Oppa straight away, back up. And a friend of mine found me an opportunity in West Village, which is a beautiful dining precinct in West End. And he said, "Oh, Michael, look, I've got an opportunity for you to open a restaurant in West End." And I thought, look, I need to get another venue straight away because I don't want to lose my staff and I want to try and help. Then I'll have from going from 5 venues, at least I have 3 venues. I can kind of work it out. So and I said to his name's Julian. So he's one of the best leasing agents in Brisbane. And I said to him, look, I'm not a big fan of West End. I always stayed in the city. I love the city. I know the city. He goes, no, come check it out. And West End back those days, you know, it was, you know,
A bit more rougher.
a little bit rough, yeah. So when he took me through the precinct though, I fell in love. So it was like the old and new. I knew straight away. I said, yep, sign me up straight away. Boom.
Wow.
So then I opened up our next venue called Yamas, which is a Greek. It's like a sister restaurant from Oppa. But to be honest with you, that point of my life there was extremely challenging and difficult through personal, through my health. I gained a lot of weight. I was smoking. I took up, you know, I was always off and on with the cigarettes as well.
Yes.
I was actually drinking a little bit heavy as well. You know, I don't drink anything anymore. I don't smoke. I'm very healthy now. But my mind was very, you know, all over the place because I was working 7 days. You know, things, you know, money, you know, finance. You know, I've got three kids, 3 beautiful kids as well, family. So I was just like trying to work out, you know. So there's a lot of moving parts at that time. So yeah, that would be one of my most challenging moments, yeah, in business.
That's amazing, Michael. And quite inspiring, to be honest, because I don't think not too many people would have chosen to sign up on other leads at the worst point of their life, knowing, you know, what to do.
Yeah, look, at that point though, I thought, you know, I had the team behind me, I've had the experience, but there was a little bit unlucky situations. So what happened to me at that moment, it wasn't my doing. It was just, you know, it just happened, and it was just a little bit unlucky, you know what I mean? But I kind of knew, you know, I backed myself because I knew that I can do it. You know what I mean? I've got the team, you know, I've got the processes, you know, I know I'm passionate about hospitality, even though it's very hard work.
I would say a little bit unlucky is certainly an understatement of what you've gone through. From, you know, 0 to where you are, I think almost 0 to where you are is actually quite a remarkable story. So, you know, I think many people will find that very, very inspiring. Now, you know, fast forward now, obviously you got, you know, beautiful restaurants even in the West End. You've got Rich and Rare, which is, you know, beautiful steakhouse. And, you know, you got Auntie's now just opening up in, you know, behind recently. And again, you know, amazing success that you're having at the moment.
We've got beautiful steakhouses, Rich and Rare, Fat Cow, you know, very famous kind of steakhouses. We're lucky enough to get into the kind of Asian cuisine with Long Wang and Auntie just recently opened, and it's taken off like a rocket.
And I can assure you that it's Asian approved, by the way.
Yeah,
so
thank you. I appreciate that. And you know, and going through you know, things like you know, the tender of the Green Bridge. So for me, that was quite rewarding when, you know, 300 people went through the tender. There was a long process. Huge process from, you know, a certain number of people went down to the, you know, top 3. We got chosen, and just having that iconic, you know, restaurant on the bridge, you know, for me that was quite special, you know, because I was like, kind of brought me back to my original restaurant where George's was, because it's kind of very similar views and it's not that far away as well. And you know, just giving back. I thought, you know, this is like for the Brisbane community as well.
Yes.
So me giving back and making sure to do the right thing and do a restaurant to do Brisbane proud as well. So we're lucky enough to have Stilts on the bridge, Mogler Bill's, which is a very busy kind of a cafe restaurant, and it goes from breakfast, lunch and dinner. Very, very busy, 60 square meters, a little bit of outside space, but super busy. And then, you know, Queen's Wharf, you know, so they picked us to do 2 restaurants in the Queen's Wharf, Pompette, which is a French restaurant, and Dark Shepherd, which is like a wood fire, Mediterranean Greek inspired restaurant. And you know, even going through that process was great learnings from, you know, going through the build, going through unions, and that was my first kind of union building job. And I have to say, and I forgot to mention Foch as well.
Yes.
Portside.
Yes. Hamilton.
Portside there, where that precinct at the time, everyone told me, Michael, do not go there. No one's going there. Bad move. Don't open a restaurant. And every time I was going there to Portside, there was no one. It was like a ghost town.
You're right. Yes.
And I was like, but I knew the area well from back in the days, and I knew it had great bones and it's a great position, it's a great area, but it just needed a few better operators in there. And now you look at it, and from day one when we opened Foch, exploded. It kind of surprised me. It was mayhem. I wasn't expecting that. So actually, I wasn't even ready. So I did a lot of bad mistakes.
Yes, along the journey. Yes.
So, like, the journey hasn't been perfect.
No.
But every single restaurant we've opened, we've kind of learnt from, and we've got better as we go as well.
And that's probably where I think the commonality of successful people come from, is that they understand, and if you are humble enough to understand your mistakes and actually learn from it and then sort of apply it for the next one, I think that's the secret to success. But I can also, testify. I can also say that, service, and I think in these modern days of AI era and things like that, the human touch and everyone at your restaurant is, they're fun. They know how to spark a good conversation, bit of banter, like Queensland style. You know what I mean? So I think that's probably a key differentiator from a customer perspective that I could happily share.
No, I agree with you there, and that's what we kind of in our our values when we bring new people into the team, into the company, where we don't want to be stiff, like front of house. We don't want to be. Our focus is everyone's welcome. The doors are open. We're giving true hospitality. We're not just giving service. Here's your wine. Here's top up the wine and pull the. We're giving. When you come into the venue, we want you to feel welcome, and that you get recognised, and and having the waiters having a bit of banter as well. But they know when to do it and when not to do it. But we encourage this.
Yeah.
So
I just had one in fact. What's a French waiter?
Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony's fun.
He's hilarious.
That's right. That's right. So he always give me a couple of pokes every time I'm there. But just to wrap things up, and I guess perhaps to just reflect on some of these learnings and the life lessons you've learned. And one of the biggest thing that we all want to do is, and very hard to do, is to talk about some of these stories that you've gone through, because we simply don't often have these platforms. But moreover, it's really I feel like this could be for your children, this story, in the future as they grow up.
I appreciate it as well.
And I think it'll be a bit of a legacy sharing from your perspective. But, if you were to perhaps tell your kids, who's probably old enough to watch this again, what will be that fatherly advice that you want to give them as just imagine they're watching this right now?
Look, I think always, be truthful, always be honest, be humble, always do the right thing, always try to give back when you can. And then, in business, that will thrive through business, but also keep pushing forward. Don't look back. If you do a mistake, just keep pushing forward, learn, and you'll achieve kind of greatness. But also have faith. And just be a good human being.
It's amazing advice
along the journey.
That's amazing advice, not just for your kids. I think that's amazing advice for everyone who's tuning in. Look, really appreciate the time you spent with me. And I think we could have done this, and you're my first guest. So
thank you. I appreciate it. And I feel privileged to actually be the first one. So thank you, Johnny.
No, thank you. And we look forward to, hopefully bringing you back again on this platform eventually. And we actually at the restaurant been talking about what we could name this podcast and things like that. But start of great things, always got to start somewhere.
Yes. We can go on a deeper dive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'd love to do that. There's a lot of actually advice pieces you can give, especially people who's aspiring to be, because a restaurant is a very hard business to run, as you know, and for they'll love to pick that brain. So hopefully we can delve into further in the future. But once again, thank you very much, and thank you for everyone who's tuned in. Hope you found that helpful, and no doubt you've gone back with a couple lessons to learn from. So. Stay tuned. There'll be more of these episodes coming, and we'll look forward to having you on again next episode. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you, Michael.